Hey, welcome to season 2, the Lab Science podcast. You hear two voices. That's not me doing weird overdub tricks. Your ears are not fooling you. Your mind is not deceiving you, at least if it is. It has nothing to do with this audio. I'm Professor SentZ.
Yeah, I'm Captain Lean Automatic.
Good to have the captain back on the ship. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, man. It's good to be back.
How the fuck have you been, man?
I'm good, bro. Just working around the clock, gigging, DJing about 4 nights a week, writing and working with a bunch of different artists and agencies.
It's been really cool seeing your progression, man. You know,
Word, thank you,
really, you know, like even, and we'll go deeper into the specifics, but before we do that, like going back to like previous episodes, I was listening to you talking about like, yo, I'm grinding hard. I'm doing 2 gigs a week. I'm doing 3 gigs a week. Now it's risen up to 4 gigs a week plus consistent studio sessions. You know, as soon as I think you've ran out of time, you find extra hours in the fucking day. I don't know how you do it, man. It's exciting to see, man. If you're not following Lean on Instagram, I think that's the best way to kind of get an idea of how much work he's putting in on a day-to-day. It inspires the hell out of me.
Word, thank you, man. I appreciate that for sure.
It's cool, bro. It's really cool. And, you know, later on in the episode, I want to talk a little bit about keeping DJ crates fresh. And I think that's a topic you can really, really help with all the DJing you've been doing. Yeah,
man. There's so much new music coming out, too.
Yeah, that's a fact. But I really wanted to kind of pick your brain about some of the gigs you've been doing. You know, I know that you did the Madlibfest recently, and you've been on the stage more recently. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, if anyone doesn't know, I've been putting out music as a solo artist recently, just under Lean Automatic. Recently released a EP called Lean Flips Volume 1. It's like a series of instrumentals and stuff that I did.
Series of fire.
And then just dropped a single called Lunatic, whatever. That's on all platforms. But I've been playing those songs with a live drummer. And I've been kind of breaking the sets down on the Ableton Push. So I kind of do that live when I'm alone, or I guess not alone, but with a drummer. And yeah, we just played Madlibfest in New Jersey. That was pretty dope. Some of the more recognized names on there, probably Brain Orchestra, that's my boy, he's from Jersey. We had 89 the Brainchild on there. He's super lit.
He's dope.
And then John Bapp crushed it. Black Dynamite, dope ass drummer from Texas, and he's got a full band. He killed it. Madlibfest Fest was dope. Had like 4 different stages. I think it's annually, so I would definitely look into it for next year.
It's so crazy to see how quickly that festival just became like the super legit tri-state area boom bap. Yeah. Everyone's been buzzing about it. It's always good energy, and they just came out of nowhere with that shit, dude.
It reminds me of a young Afro punk, you know, like they're not booking Billboard artists, and it's like, you know, you got to pay to get out there because it is on a large camping grounds, and you do have the choice of staying over the entire weekend. Mm-hmm. There's like a lake and everything, so it's pretty big space. It's also, you know, it's New Jersey, so once you're out in the woods, you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Like you don't got no phone service, something like that.
I mean, I personally feel like that's the way to go with a festival nowadays, dude.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, you take your little videos, whatever, post them up when you get home, but like it's a very kind of you're kind of out there, you know, really out in the middle of the woods.
That's what's up.
Yeah, it was dope. So yeah, I did that with my drummer, OP Grime, who, you know, we've been working with since Black Space. And then just this past weekend, I played at Baby's All Right here in Brooklyn. I was rapping with a rapper and a producer combo that I've been working with, this dude Ting. He's originally from Uptown, lives here in Brooklyn with us now. And this dude, Gabe Monroe, phenomenal producer, bass player, guitar player, multi-instrumentalist, engineer, like you name it, dude can mix everything. Just young cat, straight out of college, but he's killing it, man. So Ting was working on a project with Gabe, and then Ting and I met on the East River almost a year ago, exactly last weekend. And then a year later, we're performing at Baby's All Right together.
That's fuck. You have this tendency of like meeting people, becoming really good friends, and then within a year, you're on a pretty legit stage.
Yeah, we did. Yo, you and I did the same shit.
I know. I'm thinking about the Webster Hall shit. I'm like, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, your first show with us was at Webster Hall.
Too fucking funny, dude. You know, funny. It's something that we've been saying on the social media a lot lately. Collaboration has been such a key element of music nowadays, and especially like hip hop and electronic music, where we kind of lost it for a bit.
Yeah,
you know?
No, definitely.
It's cool to see you cramming in this much work with this many different people, and also hearing your sound stay consistent in it. And I think that's something that a lot of people lose touch of when they work with other artists. It's a back and forth. I forget the name of it. I'll pull it up in a second. I'll link it in the show notes. But I'm reading this new Questlove book where he's talking about creativity. One of the big things that he kind of preaches on is making sure you don't lose yourself. It's called Creative Quest. One of the things he preaches on is like not losing yourself in your collaborations.
Yeah.
Making sure you still resonate in collabs. And I struggled with that a bit. I really think the sessions that we had writing together kind of made me more comfortable with making sure I didn't lose my writer and artist sense and just slip straight into producer mode. So
yeah, no, I feel like, you know, a lot of these people are coming to me, or, you know, we meet in some way and they recognize what I'm doing and I recognize what they're doing, and we try to make that work together. You know, like I don't want to walk into a situation and try to change everybody's shit. I don't expect them to do that to me. So
that's real.
I think Ting and I especially have this really great dynamic where like our heads are kind of in the same place. Like we get super lit together. And like he's just a dope dude, like really super talented MC. And one of the main things though is that his work ethic. You know, like I sat there and watched him. He just bangs tracks out, bro. Like nonstop. I think it was the same situation when he met the producer Gabe. They met, and then like a month later they had like, you know, this crazy selection of tracks that they created that they can turn into an album now. So yeah, he's working on the album. I'm definitely featured on. I think I'm one of the few featured MCs on his album. And we opened up for this dude Sinatra, who's like super talented. I mean, he's blowing up. He's doing national tours right now, and I'm looking at all the videos. I'm like, damn, these shits look sold out. And we played Babies this past weekend, and it was damn near sold out.
The footage looks crazy. Again, if you don't follow Lean on IG, I saw you started to post some of the footage from it earlier today or yesterday, maybe. But check out his Instagram because the footage looks nuts. That venue itself, Babies, always looks really, really good when it's packed.
Yeah, so, definitely. The sound is amazing too.
Yeah, they always do a good job at keeping the house sounding real dope. Exciting, man. Definitely keep us abreast of the projects. As I mentioned before, follow Lean on Instagram. That's a real good way to stay in tune with this world. Speaking of Instagram, actually, IGTV has been such a godsend for me. And kind of
I've been trying to get more into it, you know?
It's super dope. It's weird getting used to the aspect ratio being vertical, but I feel like a lot of our content, especially the tutorial stuff, the quick inspirational stuff, it sits in that 1 minute to 10 minute range. And a lot of the people that fuck with us are on the gram anyway. So it's been my focus for the past couple of days and couple of weeks, really getting that in tune. If you're not following us on IG already, do so. Our IGTV is pretty fucking lit. I will say that. But it does take a lot of time, man. So I do have to give you, again, that kudos of being consistent with your social media. It's something that I think is a big reason why you are able to get these opportunities.
Yeah, man. Especially with all the updates, like it's hard to keep up with that shit. There are a lot of people that are definitely like really on top of it, and it shows. Like, you know, when you're creating content specifically for a new upgraded feature in like your social media, it looks much better than just like trying to share the same information, you know, across platforms. Yeah.
It's one of those things where I do think you benefit from kind of making content unique for it, you know. So that's really been what I've been doing lately. You know, on the subject of updates, I got a chance to see you and the big homie Matt a couple of weeks ago. I was gone on a hiatus. I took a season break. I got married and shit, which meant nothing. Which meant nothing in my household, but we lost a bunch of money. But we got a bunch of friends out, and it was a lot of fun. We had a great
that wedding
time.
Was fun, bro. So lit.
So
I had mad fun.
Something I will recommend to any creatives getting married, if you DJ especially, have your friends do it. have your friends DJ your wedding. I did that and it was fucking awesome. Lean came through. He spun a majority of the wedding and fucking killed it.
So much fun, dude.
I had a couple other homies finish things up. I knew good and well I did not want some bozo DJing my wedding and pissing me off. So again, thank you, sir. It meant a lot to have you guys there.
Hell yeah. Thank you for having us.
But now that shit is done, I'm so glad to be back in this goddamn studio.
Get it!
So I guess we should move on to the lab report. There's a lot of shit that happened this week and in the past couple of days that I wanted to cover. I was getting like eager throughout all this Nicki and Travis shit because I really want to pick your brain on this. For those who don't know, Nicki Minaj, Travis Scott put out their albums around the same time. Nicki is giving Travis a whole bunch of shit claiming that he cheated his way to a #1 spot. The antics that she's accusing him of are as simple as bundling the album with merch, bundling the album with tickets, with t-shirts.
Whole nigga of the week, of course, is Travis Scott. Woo! Travis Scott on Thursday, when he realized the Queen was about to have the #1 album in America, he and his label decided to have Kylie and baby Stormy put up a tour pass. He had her go and post and say, hey, me and Stormy can't wait to see y'all. How are you selling something that does not have anything to do with your album, but is being counted on Billboard as album sales? But what we not gonna do is have this auto-tune man coming up here selling fucking sweaters and telling y'all he sold 500,000 fucking albums, because he didn't. Straight up. And it's a lot of rappers behind the scene that want to talk about it and they're scared. But sweetheart, I'm not scared. I'm legendary in these streets. I'm legendary in these streets.
First things first, who gives a fuck?
How is that cheating? How is that cheating?
That too. I mean,
how? In what world?
When you get past the who gives a damn side of it, they've made these metrics for a reason and everyone's allowed to play the same game. So I don't see how it's considered cheating if he's done it better. But moreover, I think a takeaway that anyone can take as an artist, if you're lucky enough to have some success in your career, this shit comes off as whiny, bro.
Yeah, definitely.
And she had a project that came out and released and sold nearly 200,000 copies. Any other artist would be screaming to the heavens with something like that happening to them. And all we hear in the news is her beef with a dude that made a really good fucking project. Have you heard the Travis Scott album?
Absolutely. I was listening to it on the way to the beach today.
You know, it's funny. I don't know if you heard it on your end, but you said absolutely, and the audio glitched on some like delay reverb shit. Like Travis just took the helm. That shit was crazy. I hope it recorded. But anyway,
yes.
Beach vibes for sure. Like I was in Hawaii for the fucking honeymoon, and that's when the album came out, and it was like perfect fucking timing. It's just sunny, feel good ass music.
It really is. It's kind of like a dreamy sound.
Yeah, super dreamy. But yeah, it's again just kind of going back to this whole Nicki versus Trav shit. I don't think these numbers matter anymore, bro. I remember there was a point in time where cultural impact was the big thing and then numbers were the big thing. I feel like we're back on cultural impact being what artists really need to be aiming for.
I mean, a good example of that is if you look at like, you know, kids like Lil Pump and 6ix9ine, you know, taking their plaques off the wall and like beating the shit out of them with bats. Yeah. And saying, fuck your plaques. Let's go. I like the attitude, I like the energy. It's kind of punk, you know?
It's 100% punk. 6ix9ine was actually the person that popped in my head when I was thinking about this rejection of the numbers. Like, I think if you put your focus and emphasis on kind of owning the culture or the streets or the group that you're in and catering to, the numbers will come.
And plus, Travis's album, I think, personally has like a lot more depth to it.
The nigga got Stevie Wonder playing harmonica into reverb.
Yeah, like what do you want?
Damn.
Yo, you can't mess with that. All right, granted, I could definitely play a lot more of the Nicki tracks in the club than I could like some of the Travis Scott joints.
Definitely.
But I think that's kind of where, you know, you're able to see the you know, what really matters. Like, yeah, I could play your shit in the club, but am I gonna listen to it on the way to the beach? Yeah. Maybe not. Yeah. Because I'm listening to it in the club later, you know what I'm saying? But there's a time and a place for the records that you make. And I feel like Travis's records kind of are easier to listen throughout the day.
Yeah, that's real. You know, I hadn't planned on talking about this. We'll move on from the Nicki hate shit, but before we depart the Trav album, Mike Dean did a lot of the mixing and mastering on this project.
It sounds much different than the last record.
It definitely does. And one thing that I've noticed, I literally pulled the levels up in Paz analyzers. There's sections of these songs where there's clipping. There's sections of the song where there's audible distortion that I feel like if you removed it from the record, it would have a negative impact on the record.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some, 'cause, you know, a lot of times you are able to hear a lot of his sounds very crisply, like crisp and clearly, kind of in each ear, all of his panning and things like that. You could hear each individual instrument. On the last album, what was that? Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight. That last joint, the mix was like super clean, super clear. I feel like this one, kind of the tones and the notes get a little lost together, but it keeps the integrity of the sound, you know, like it doesn't kind of zero out. They just kind of mold together a little differently.
I really like it. I feel like it's reminding engineers and artists to kind of sculpt the sound with feel first.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's a Houston kid. You think about those screw tapes. They were distorted. They were saturated. They sounded technically bad, but locally great. And he has an imprint. You know, it's showing up in every Mike Dean mix I'm hearing lately. Like the scientific side of the mix is second to the feel of the mix. And I think that's a real great place for an engineer to be in. Speaking on numbers, the man Dubfire, who's a super technical DJ I have a lot of respect for. I had a chance to meet him at Dubspot, and he was a super solid dude. He just broke the record for the longest solo DJ set ever at 26 hours.
That's insane.
It's fucking absurd. Like, how do you...
I have a lot to say about that. All you DJs out there that's bitching about DJing for 3 hours, 4 hours, and you go and get your little hour gig with like 5 motherfuckers on the night, on the set for the night. Suck my dick, yo. This dude played for 26 hours.
What the
by himself. You don't got that.
What's the longest set you ever played, dude?
8.
I've done about 7 or 8 myself. And that's brutal.
Yeah,
it was fucking horrible.
Yeah. But I mean, like 8 I would do frequently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like 8's the longest I've done a lot. But the longest is probably like 12. Jesus. You know, just kind of like the entire day, just kind of taking care of, like catering the sound.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah, like a entire day, like a beach day, you know. Plus we do shit back to back, you know, like there's been days where I did 12 to 6 back to back with one other person at the beach.
Yeah. And
then had to come back to Brooklyn and do a full night, like 10 to 4. Back to back with another dude.
Those stacked nights, I've definitely had way too many. Like, day party, mid party, night party. I could totally see that. It'll kick your ass, man. I mean,
hell yeah, it kicks your ass.
It requires really, really intelligent crate management. Not to go on a tangent once again, but you know, we're writing this DJ course, and one of the things that frustrates me with a lot of the other DJ education you see online, they put so little focus on your crates and how to make sure that no matter what, if you get into a situation where you're DJing for 6 hours, for 8 hours, you can get through that shit without repeating anything. And there's an art to setting up your crates, and there's also an art to telling the story and arcing your story, because you can't hit them with bangers for 26 hours. No one will be in the room anymore.
Nah, no way. Gotta butter them up. You know, I mean, everybody knows the drill by now.
You would think.
Kind of sectioning your night according to the time or the people who are in the room, the age, you know, are they dudes? There's a lot of dudes, there's a lot of chicks. Like, you know, what's going on?
Yeah.
Reading the room and understanding what kind of music you have to fit that vibe. I think that'll definitely help you pace, you know, your next hour, your next 45 minutes, whatever it is. What song do I let play out a little longer? Like what track do people really want to listen to all the way through? That buys me like, you know, 4 minutes maybe. Because I've had, you know, people are thinking like, all right, I'm gonna play, 2,000 songs in 26 hours, like Dubfire probably did. But a lot of times, I've actually had people come up to me and ask me to play an entire song because they know every word.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying this is a great idea to do all the time. I don't typically do this, but there are times where people ask you to let the whole song rock. So there are definitely ways to eat up your time.
Oh, that's a really good point, man. We're always quick to talk about where you mix in on the record, but mixing out points are really key. And when you have a long gig, that time management is important. When you have a song that's working really well, that buys you another 30 seconds. It buys you another 45 seconds. And
exactly,
you got to take advantage. There's nothing worse than like a song that has something in the third verse and everyone's kind of waiting for it, and the DJ cuts the song off in the second.
Right. I know.
You know what I mean?
It is the word. That one, a good example is like the bridges on some like old Destiny Child tracks. Like,
yes,
Beyonce would go off on that last bridge. She would hit the note, that one note everybody was waiting for her to hit, and the whole club be singing it. I could drop the volume and everybody's sitting, singing it off key. But you bring it back in and everybody's right back in tune. So like, some of those tracks you gotta let rock.
100%. You fuck around and cut a Beyonce or Rihanna record off too early in a room full of really drunk ladies. See what happens.
Nah, you getting the last styrofoam cup in New York thrown at you.
Oh man, something I'm excited about. There's new Macs on the fucking horizon. Thank God. Because my MacBook is looking like a piece of shit right now. So there's rumors of a new low-cost MacBook Pro and new Mac Minis, and both of these make me really excited because I love the Apple infrastructure. I love iOS. I do a lot of work with my phone, so it's nice to be able to translate it to my computer really quickly. But I feel like for the past couple of years, Apple just kind of lost touch with folks that were in that mid-level consumer market.
I think they're trying to bridge that gap from like, the older era users and bringing them forward into the new hardware, the new way of doing things.
I think you're right. And I think this is a good way to do it, especially, I mean, a new MacBook Pro is really exciting, and I think it's going to be a low-cost one that's under $1,000. That's huge. It's way overdue. But what I'm more excited about is these Mac Minis coming back, man. I remember tons of recording studios being ran on a Mac Mini because you could open them up and add more RAM to them. There were these little fucking hearts of gold, you know what I mean? And I wanted to.
Yeah, they probably recognize that.
Yeah, I think it was something they lost in the market and said, "Ah, shit, we lost a lot of money and left a lot of money on the table." But my fear is that we're going to see what Apple has been doing lately, and that's making it non-upgradable.
I know, man. I can't change shit about my laptop right now.
It's garbage. It's super fucking garbage.
Yep.
But it is what it is. We'll see what the Mac Minis are looking like. I think more than likely that's going to be my next computer purchase. So maybe we'll do a little unboxing and unveiling when that finally does go down in a few weeks. I'll let you know how it goes.
That'd be tight.
Moog just today actually announced that they're getting rid of the Moogerfoogers. If you're not familiar with these are like the pedal effects units that Moog put out. A lot of guitar fans use them. A lot of synthesizer heads obviously use them. They're also great vocal effects units.
I think I've seen some bass players with them.
Really, really dope pedals. That
they just dead stocking them?
Yeah, they're just going to hold production on them. Moog recently announced that because of Trump's good old-fashioned legislative changes and this whole tax issue we're having with import taxes on China, they're having a hard time stocking parts. Moog gets a lot of their parts from China, and with these new taxes, it's just not profitable for them to keep importing shit. So I have a funny feeling this might be related to that.
I mean, why not?
The components
There's tons of companies like that get their components from China.
I mean, I know Teenage Engineering was saying it might be impacting them too, but I'm assuming that's what's going on here. I do have to say that Moog always does a really good job at like stopping production on something for a few years and then starting production again to keep the life of it like exciting and keep the demand up. But they literally announced that they were having money problems a couple of weeks ago when this happened, so I can't help but think that they're related.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That being said, I think they do really great things with their apps. Their iOS apps have been incredible since they started diving into them. They've had a version of the low pass filter for years now. It would be cool to see them start to port some of these things to our phone.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, the software synths and like plugins and stuff they have are fucking dope, man. Mm-hmm. They sound great.
The Model 15, the Model D, I mean, if you can't afford this hardware, which a lot of people can't, it's really cool to be able to get the same sound textures on your phone and then plug them into Live, plug them into FL or Logic and go from there. So hopefully they see the value in that, man. It costs a lot less to do the software development. And I know that's not really where Moog comes from traditionally, but it'd be a nice way for them to make some of that money back and then maybe be able to put that into the hardware down the line.
Hell yeah.
Word. So that concludes the lab report. We're going to move on to some topics. So I guess a moral question for you. You know about Splice, the sound company and all that.
Yep.
You're seeing a lot of really heavy placements come from Splice MIDI packs. So if you don't know about the Splice world, you can download MIDI or you can download, sequences, patterns, melodies, and then drop them into your DAW and kind of do like a paint by numbers kind of approach to producing, right?
Right. Like you do like focus more on sound design with pre-written MIDI. Indeed. Or even if you just want to grab the raw audio, they have both. Or the audio, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So on one hand, it's cool because it allows especially new producers to have a palette of things to work with that they wouldn't normally have the access to. But how do you feel about this new trend of capable producers, guys and girls that know how to make music, just kind of skipping the sound design side of things and grabbing a couple of loops and making a placement off of it?
I mean, Splice is a crazy thing because recently I have been like looking to Splice for times when I really need a texture that I know I can't really recreate, something like a live plucked bass.
Yeah.
Unless I had a bass player in the room, I really can't create that. And even then, if I grab audio from that, I'm gonna be honest with you, I resample the fuck out of it. I actually don't use loops from them. I record like pieces of notes that I like and recreate, just redo everything basically. It's not the same bass line. You would never even know the bass line that was originally there or any other, sequence or instrument that I grab from Splice. I chop it up, recreate it in my own way. Mm-hmm. So I'm really looking more for like the live sound that I can't recreate digitally. As far as people like grabbing loops straight up and just like rocking off a loop, I mean, it's kind of whack, it doesn't really show much talent in your music. Also, another person can just go and grab that sound and rock the same loop,
Right.
I would like to imagine that most people grabbing stuff off Splice are at least chopping it up a little bit.
It's interesting that like you frame it that way because I personally had like this moral dilemma myself. I'm like, oh, you just make your own fucking loop. Like, why are you downloading loops from a third party?
Right.
And I was like, well, I guess if you slice it up and if you chop it, it's making it different. And then this little ghost in the back of my head said, my nigga, that's the same way you think about sampling.
Right.
Like when you're sampling a record, it's the same thing. Like if
the exact same thing.
If someone grabbed a loop and didn't touch it, you'd be like, you didn't work.
Right.
But if someone chops it up and does their thing over it, it's a complete different composition. So it kind of made me step back on my thoughts a little bit. So it's interesting to hear that you approach it that way.
And a lot of times also it's like, are you basing your entire track off of splice stems? Mm-hmm. I typically don't do that. I'll try to like have the majority of my song done before I start looking for something off of a sample based service.
Oh, that's interesting. So you bring the bring the sample in the middle of the process.
Yeah, I may have another sample that I already been working with. If I'm doing a track that's based off of a main sample. I mean, technically, all of our music is based off of samples. Like one shots are just samples,
right.
Kick drums, snare drums, all this shit. It's just they're sampled audio.
Right.
So, whether it's MIDI or audio, it's still kind of samples. So if I'm gonna base the song off of let's say a looping kind of like 8-bar, like Latin percussion band that I found on some freaking vinyl, or if I found it online or YouTube or something like that, I'll sound fly it into my Ableton, and then I'll grab a section that works, and I'll either have that section loop and kind of structure, I'll filter out the low end, EQ it so it kind of sits somewhere in the mix, but I could still kind of do my thing with drums and other instruments over top of it. It just depends on how you're trying to build your track. I typically don't build my music off of Splice loops. Like I said, I'll look to them for a texture that I think will sound cool with a song that I've already been working on. They're kind of like a last resort for me.
That's an interesting way of doing it, dude. I really like the idea of it being a texture that you add after you've kind of gotten the creative juices flowing already.
Yeah, I'm not letting them kind of guide where I'm going with the track,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. I think I had a lot more hate for Splice going into things a few weeks ago, and now that I think more about it and really correlated to just the digging experience, it's just a different way of digging. I mean, it's not the same as grabbing through vinyl, but that's not the same as grabbing from TV or cassette. It's just another way of grabbing sound sources, right? And
yeah. Well, one thing I think that really separates it, though, is the fact that especially more recently, I've been working with really understanding the key of my song and, what I'm working with, the steps that I can play on the keyboard that are in tune and just fine tuning everything. And Splice, has this feature where you can select a sample based off the key that it's in, the BPM, like the style of sound it is. So it really kind of filters out all the shit that you really don't want to dig through.
Man, so starting a song with the key in mind, it seems like obvious for a lot of genres of music, but especially if you make rap shit, you usually don't start that way. And
no,
it's interesting to see more and more of us in this world start to do that, because you start to find the keys that you go back to. You start to find the progressions that really work for your style of music, and it's less of you starting from scratch every time. So you raise a really, really valuable point. That's a huge benefit for Splice. Something else that I will say that I do like that they're doing, kind of away from the sample side of things, I like this whole rent to own system that they have with plugins.
That stuff is crazy. You could try out anything, basically.
What they're doing with Ozone is really, really dope. I especially like that there's a hard path to ownership. It's not you're renting forever and then you end up paying more money renting than you would have if you bought it. But that's getting people to invest in their career, and I think that's super important. When you buy things, when you put a couple of dollars towards tools, you're more likely to use them and really learn how to use them. So
absolutely. I mean, you sitting there looking at this number, this huge price point, and you're like, how the hell am I going to get that when I'm also trying to do this, and I'm also trying to pay the rent, I'm also trying to do this.
Real.
So being able to have that lower price point and still develop your sound is great.
Don't pirate, man. I know it's tempting to do. I used to pirate like a motherfucker. I could still get you access to any Pro Tools you need today. I'm telling you. But don't, you know what I mean? Especially if you have a capable DAW like Live, you can probably just do it in Live. You know what I mean? Just do that, or use a situation like a Splice and rent the cool tools and go from there. Speaking of Live, I've been keeping a keen eye on Ableton and what they've been doing. And I noticed maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, they started to hire a hardware developer.
Ooh, baby.
Which leads me to think they're putting out new hardware. I don't think that's too much.
We need that.
We do.
Let me get that.
So the first thing that I'm assuming, and it might be wrong, but the first thing that I've got to assume is a new push, right?
I would think push or a synth.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even think about an Ableton synth. That actually might make a lot of sense.
Maybe some sort of outboard, something comparable to the Roland or Korg synth price points.
That would be really interesting to see, because it could be.
That would be super lit.
It would be super integrated.
Yeah, or what was the Native Instruments one? The complete
Oh, the MK1
keyboard
controllers, the complete control.
Yeah, that to link with the plugins and stuff like that. You know, like something that's kind of a keyboard that's more Ableton focused.
So that's where I really want to see development going, and this is what I kind of wanted to do. I wanted to pick your brain and, you know, see if we were these developers, what we would be trying to put in the new gear. So
right,
you're kind of going where I was thinking in terms of what I would want to see on the new push. I'd love them to take the machine approach and have smaller versions that just put the focus on the knobs and the screen. Because I think having access to the parameters of something, even if you're using another keyboard and you don't want to use those big pads that come with the push, that's such a huge benefit of the controller. But man, I kind of like the idea of putting that on the synthesizer more now that you mention it.
You know, a synth, or I would even say interface.
Yeah.
To help with back-end stuff, you know, like latency and just overall audio quality.
Well, I've been screaming that the push or the APC needs to have a built-in audio interface for a while now.
Yeah, that would be great. It would make it a little, I think they would have to change the shape or size or something.
Probably.
For the interface.
It would be a bit bigger, but I mean, if they can put audio interfaces into the MPC and into the machine and it's a similar footprint, I think they could do it on a slightly bigger push.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
I would love to see an audio interface built in. I would love to see a USB hub built in. I would love to see dedicated MIDI. I mean, connectivity. I've had the Push 1 since maybe the first month or two it came out. I still use it every day. I could upgrade to a 2, but it's so useful I don't need to. This thing is made perfect.
Yeah, I use mine every day too.
So you know this thing is perfect for Ableton. All it needs now is the ability to have us plug in other things to it.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be able to plug a microphone straight into a push. I want to be able to plug in turntables straight into a push. It needs to have a dedicated MIDI interface and audio interface by now. I would love to see that.
Definitely. I think some kind of upgrading the push, definitely, or maybe a synth, or maybe kind of like a outboard. What's that thing that Roland put out? Kind of like the patch synth.
Oh, you wanted to go like the modular route?
Yeah, something more modular.
It would be cool to have something patchable, like a small patch bay of components. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think the overall thing I would love to see is just more shit to put my hands on, for lack of better words.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, something that you really got me keen on in making music is getting a basic idea and then having a bunch of knobs affect a bunch of things. And it just takes you somewhere. I've been using Tornado a shit ton. It's just because it has 8 effects mapped up on 8 knobs, and so you get an idea and then you touch knobs and you have this really organic experience making music.
That's amazing.
Yeah, man, I want to see live go more in that direction. A smaller push, a larger push with more connectivity. Now you made me want to fucking push synth kind of thing. What the hell would that be called? Push and pull.
Let me get that Ableton synth,
man, that'd be fucking sick. So live, if you guys are listening, I think it's pretty clear you need to have me and Lean in your development team. I don't know why you're hiring another hardware developer. Just holler at us. What the fuck?
Right.
So I want to keep it brief this week. I did want to talk about one more thing, and we kind of brushed on it earlier, and it's the idea of keeping your DJ crates fresh. I've been fucking writing this DJ course like a madman, and one thing that I really tried to emphasize is library management, you know, making sure that you show up every week with songs that you're excited about. And going back to the top, when we were talking about you spinning 4 nights a fucking week.
Yeah, man.
And a lot of those being venues you're repeating. So you can't show up with the same music every week.
Nah.
How?
Definitely can't mix it the same way.
So I guess first things first, how are you keeping your crates fresh? Like, are you downloading from a specific source, multiple sources? Do you have dedicated days where you dig? Is it more freestyle?
I think it's like kind of steps to the process where first you have to really understand what kind of music you need to be playing for the places that you're playing at. And that honestly only comes with 2 ways of doing it. You could go to that club or that bar or venue, whatever, frequently enough where you know the vibe.
Yes.
Or, you know, you could get booked, start playing, and just kind of trust yourself and trust your awareness of your crowd and hope that you have that, are able to offer what they want to listen to.
If you're new and can do the first one, do the first one.
Yeah, definitely do the first one. It's an easier way of being prepared. Is just getting to know the places you're going to play. Definitely check it out. Understand what's happening, how long the sets are, things like that. But first thing I said was, knowing what you need to be playing. Listen to other DJs. See how people react to what they're playing. There might be some new stuff out, but like if nobody likes it, who cares? If I go play the new Wiz Khalifa, no shade, but if I go play new Wiz Khalifa, no one's really gonna give a shit.
Damn. No shade, but fuck that nigga and all his music.
I'm saying, like, there's a couple joints on Rolling Papers too. Like, I like the album personally, but if I go play it in the club, like, no one's really gonna vibe to it too, like that.
No, that's real. And you hit a real good point. Watching other DJs is very important. Yeah,
like knowing what people want to hear. Great way to keep your crates fresh because it'll make you realize how much you're not playing. Every time we think we got like, oh man, I got so much music. It's like, oh god, there's so much more I could have.
Yeah.
Like tonight or tomorrow, I'm playing in Bed-Stuy at Do or Dive, and I do like a, kind of. I used to do a hip hop thing, but now I'm just kind of general anthems, like New York anthems.
Yeah.
Which is mostly hip hop. And since we're in Bed-Stuy, obviously I do like the 90s Biggie thing. And I'm thinking like, damn, there's so much 90s shit, but there's still so much more that I could have that people don't even remember that I could be playing right now. And so tonight I'm going to be downloading more 90s music. That's also a great way to kind of keep your crates fresh, is go through the year, the century, I guess, the generation, and see what lies within that generation. Is it the 70s, 80s, 90s? Work your way up. Make sure you fill your crates with like the bangers from each kind of vibe.
So you just dropped a shit ton of gems. So I'm trying to pick them all up.
Yes.
So the big thing that I wanted to talk about there was adapting, and I was lucky enough to see you start this party early on. And I remember the first thing was like, oh, this is a Bed-Stuy dive bar. We're gonna play fucking hip hop like a motherfucker, like Brooklyn hip hop shit. Biggie was like the focus. And you talk about now seeing what works in the room, responding to the feedback, and responding to the room you've established and built up. And now you've shifted the focus to include anthemic music and anthemic music from certain eras.
Exactly.
Now you found that the 90s era shit works well. And so instead of using the traditional 90s joints you had already, you're finding other 90s joints you haven't played. So it's allowing yourself to get thrown into a situation and then being comfortable enough to adapt to it and humble enough to adapt to it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to force feed anybody, but at the same time, you got to have like your own integrity kind of.
Yeah. That's always the balancing act of a good DJ. It's being willing to work with the crowd and play things they like, but also playing things that's within the wheelhouse of what you like too.
Right.
Super fucking difficult to do. So I guess in terms of sound sources, and if your download resources are illegal, we're gonna cut this segment out. but on a technical standpoint, how are you getting this music consistently? Where are you going?
I mean, I do pretty much everything I can except never download off YouTube. Don't ever download off YouTube. It's the worst thing you could do.
Quality's trash.
Quality is so trash. But I do buy music. I do have an iTunes account. I would probably get more of my music from not buying it. Even as far as like searching artists through SoundCloud who have free downloads, because there's tons of dope stuff that you can download legally for free on SoundCloud. And as well as Bandcamp, a good way of doing it is to kind of like find an artist you like, check out their stuff. Bandcamp's a great way to like kind of give them however much money you want sometimes.
Yes.
So technically you don't have to download stuff for free. You can give them like $1, $2, whatever. I'm sure everything helps.
100%, dude. And it's one of those things where if you're getting music from the SoundClouds and Bandcamps, it's probably a little bit fresher than other stuff. It's a little bit more on the edge than other stuff.
Also, I mean, when you get stuff legally, like the tags, the metadata is just more official. You know, when you drop it into Cerrado or Tractor or whatever you're using, Record Box, like all the data's there. You don't have to worry about anything.
Yep.
Files aren't corrupt. They're high quality. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, buying your music is probably the quickest way to even get the music. If you're trying to, you know, pirate and download stuff, you got to put those hours in to like dig. If that's what you're doing, like you're digging all night, you know, looking for the right files or whatever.
It's time you could be using to make music and do other shit, you know?
Right. You could be building your crates with the music that you just bought and downloaded in like 2 seconds. But I do understand, you know, when you got to download tons and tons of music, like it gets really expensive.
So let me interject with something that I've recently fucking fallen in love with, and I didn't give it love in the past at all. DJ pools.
Yeah, DJ pools are great.
Holy shit. So they've definitely come a long way since when I first started looking at them a few years ago, but I grabbed the Roland DJ 202, and check out our Instagram video that's reviewing that controller, by the way. But I grabbed the Roland DJ 202, and it came with a 3-month subscription to BPM Supreme. And
that's sick.
Bruh, it's such a dope interface because they have all the newer hip hop songs, the newer club songs, all the shit you would need for your club records. They got all the classics. All that wedding stuff that I preloaded in my computer was classics downloaded from BPM Supreme. And
so much easier.
And dude, you can literally go down the list and just check, add to a crate, and download everything in one zip file.
That's insane.
You do the shit for a month, 2 months, it's unlimited downloads. You can build up a library full of thousands of songs and then stop. I'm going to continue with my subscription just because I want to support them. I think they're doing good shit, and they've got great remixes, clean versions, acapellas, instrumentals. But for keeping your crates fresh, especially, I'm sold.
Oh yeah,
I can now.
That shit sounds amazing.
I can now like take the time that I would normally spend getting the more legit songs, and I can now source the more rare shit. I can shoot emails to artists that I want to work with and say, hey, send me your music. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about. A lot of times I got songs from the up and coming rappers by hitting them up or hitting their managers up. When like
that's sick, yeah.
When Manolo Rose first was dropping Run Ricky Run and all that shit in Brooklyn, I hit him and his manager up on Twitter. I was like, yo, when you guys
send me your tracks.
Yeah, real shit. When you guys drop new music, send me music. And they consistently did. If you have an artist that's real about their shit, they probably have a mailing list or a resource for the DJs. So hit them up and get that music sent to you. That's another real quick way of keeping your crates fresh.
I definitely still do that. If there's something I like, I'll be like, yo, send me that. I'll definitely play that.
That's real. And it promotes the community too. I mean, between that, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, I think all three of those kind of point you to really building with the artist. And that's what DJs need to get back to doing, man. Like, we can play the bangers over and over again, but we also need to break some local talent too.
Absolutely.
So we're going to close things up soon. I wanted to get into our technique of the week. It's just a quick idea or concept for you to think about in your production or your DJing this week. I wanted to talk about layering, man. Specifically taking found sounds and layering them under synthesizers.
Hell yeah.
Bruh, I've been doing it so much lately. There's going to be a couple of YouTube videos up this week where we dive into it deep. But I've really been enjoying finding the pitch in things that are atonal or things that don't have a pitch to them.
Right, yeah.
I find that if you record like the wind or whatever the fuck and then start to change the pitch up and down while you're matching it to a synth, you can get them to sync up to each other.
This goes back to it being important to sometimes knowing the key of your song.
Yes.
Because you can tune it using the EQ or using the Spectrum tool.
Yep.
You can tune it, find the note, tune it exactly to the key of your song, and you're good.
To kind of touch on that, let's say your song is in C.
Right.
There are EQ bands that relate to C and all of the harmonics of C. So if you're trying to layer a found sound, if you're trying to layer wind sounds or beach sounds, if you peak all of those EQ curves that correlate with C, it'll make the wind sound like it's more in C than anything else.
Right. You can even transpose it using a looking at your spectrum. That found sound or this ambient sound will have a key. You can then pitch it till the spectrum shows, let's say C, and then start peaking those EQs. So then you tune it and then peak it.
It's super fun. Super fun. My homie Raj, shout to Raj. He's out in New York, a ridiculous producer, dubhead. He always taught me to record like the ambient sound in like Times Square and like subways, and then just crank an EQ really, really high so it resonates, and it'll start to scream. You'll literally hear like a synth sound pick up out of nothing.
Oh yeah.
You'll get a lot of ideas in terms of like how to do this in Ableton. If you check out our latest IGTV video, I basically took a bowl and then combined a bowl with operator.
That's amazing.
And made a new sound out of it. But I do want to see more people taking layered sounds that they found, pairing them up with a synthesizer and making new sounds out of them. If you do so, post a video onto your social media, tag it with Lab Science Podcast. We're going to start highlighting the cool sound designers making patches online. If you have something that we like, put it on the site and make sure people know what you're doing. Get you some of that free promo. So I think we covered a lot, man. Reminder to folks, we have our Cerrado course coming out in a few weeks. Hit our website, join the mailing list so you can stay up to date on that. We talk about a lot of the concepts we touched on today, as well as the nitty gritty on how to use Cerrado in a controller. If you haven't sent us music already, this is the time to do it. Shoot us an email to labsciencepodcast@gmail.com. In the subject, put for lab analysis. We're going to start reviewing songs. I got to be honest with you, me and Lean are harsh critics.
Yep.
I don't think
no passes.
I don't think anybody I don't think anybody benefits from a yes man. If you want a yes man, you can find tons of those online. We're really looking for songs that are good, that have something that we can criticize in them. So send your music, be ready for those criticisms. It's all love. We want to see you all doing better. labsciencepodcast@gmail.com. And hit up iTunes, man. Hit up Apple Music, hit up Spotify. Check out my man Lean Automatic. He's got a shit ton of music out.
Thank you, man. There's definitely more coming too.
I'm super proud of you. You're finding a lane that I think is really, really going to be a successful one for you in terms of the rapper side of things. So keep going, bro.
Word. Thank you, man.
Keep going.
Hell yeah.
Until the next episode, labsciencepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us on the website, labsciencepodcast.com. I am Professor SentZ.
You're Lean Automatic.
Glad to be back, man. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Skirt.